Erica, good evening. It's been a tough day for law enforcement and the community as a whole. It all started this afternoon, right around 2:30, with a call for a car crash on Madison Avenue near Maynard Drive. But when Lieutenant Aaron Allen arrived on the scene to help, he was shot and later died. Now, we'll get to the specific details about what happened here in a moment. But as you can imagine, it's been a tough day for the people in the Southport community. RTV6's Matthew McClellan is live. That search so urgent inside the Indiana Transportation Museum right now because they don't know the chemicals that were inside those containers in the first place, and they want to try and contain all the mess that's already been made. And one of the big concerns right now with the city, with those 18 stores closing and many of them here in Marion County, is what happens when they close. Where are people going to get their produce? Where are they going to get their groceries at? And are they concerned about food deserts? Erica, we're talking a little more about the investigation. There are a lot of questions from viewers tonight asking, how does the investigation work? What exactly is happening? So IMPD will be overseeing the investigation, although they'll actually be conducting the investigation into the shooting. Hey, Amanda, good morning. Fisher firefighters have a warning this morning. They say they've seen something all too often, and this time it doesn't even have to deal with a life jacket. We're kicking off our Summer Safety Week right here on Good Morning Indiana after the break. Mark, you can test it yourself, actually. You can buy one of these kits. They have 50 strips in them. Here on Amazon, it's about $10, and what you can do is take that strip and put it inside the pool. The Secret Service tells us if that other runway had been open, they would have been able to land here at the airport. So when will we see Project Greenlight here in Indianapolis? The police department says they'll start rolling out the first phase of the program in June. Reporting tonight, I'm Call 6 Investigates, Paris Lewbel. Want to find out today what exactly went wrong, and state police is in charge of issuing those actual alerts. Todd and Erica, we've been talking to our law enforcement sources tonight, and they all tell us they're shocked that someone who was supporting ISIS was living right here in Brownsburg. That's right, Erica. Police saying it was another civilian that fired that shot. All of this in the middle of those violent protests tonight. These are live images coming in from WSOC's helicopter over those protests, and reporters tonight even getting caught in the middle of it. The suspect's only 18 years old and a U.S. citizen, but we're finding out tonight he's been showing support towards ISIS since at least 2013. Erica, right now police telling us that woman is in critical condition after the shooting. Now, this is a live look at the scene. This more than 12 hours until the storm hits here in Clearwater. It's about 30 minutes west of Tampa, and right now there's still some traffic out on the roads. People leaving town or getting some last-minute supplies before the storm hits. So not only are the local and state authorities preparing for the response, FEMA is also taking a key part of this. I'm joined with Mike Pruitt. He's with FEMA. Hurricane Irma here about 4 hours from hitting this area, but you can see already ahead of the hurricane, the whole area, the whole beach here is completely receded. Now, police are getting tips every single day, and they are receiving those tips even though they may not call you back. They say they're looking at every single one, Raphael. They say they just don't have the time to call back every single tipster.
So a number of law enforcement agencies are involved, the FBI, the state police, but there's also a unlikely federal agency that people may not think of that's involved in this case.
That's right, Raphael. We found out that NASA has been involved in trying to restore that photo to see if they could get any better quality out of it, and they are using that as part of the investigation. Now, both people inside that car were taken here to Eskenazi Hospital with what they're calling non-life-threatening injuries. They are in custody as well and being interviewed by IMPD's homicide detectives. They will be taking over the investigation. But still tonight, there are still a lot of questions about why did the suspect shoot and what caused the car to crash in the first place. IMPD, again, will be handling all parts of the investigation. Good evening. Those officers sending us this email yesterday after finding out their assistant chief violated 2 department policies, both relating to alcohol and only receiving a 2-week suspension. Now, those officers came to us in this email because they say they're scared of speaking up to their bosses in the department because they feel like they will be retaliated against. Tonight, Plainfield Police Assistant Chief Carrie Weber is on suspension for violating 2 department policies. The president of the Metropolitan Police Commissioners Board in Plainfield telling us that the assistant chief admitted to getting behind the wheel of her department-issued squad car after drinking at a golf outing and also carrying beer cans in that squad car. And tonight, the city says Assistant Chief Weber is suspended without pay for 2 weeks and banned from driving a department-issued car for 30 days. But according to Plainfield police officers who emailed Call 6, the punishment is far under what the department policy says it should be. According to the Plainfield Police Department's policy obtained by Call 6 Investigates, it says no officer shall operate a department vehicle within 8 hours of consuming any alcoholic beverage. It also says no officer shall operate a department vehicle or report for duty at any time with a blood alcohol level over 0.00%. It goes on to say violation of the policy is cause for automatic dismissal. Officers on the department are upset, reaching out to Call 6 Investigates after feeling like they couldn't speak up in their own department, telling us, "We also feel our hands are tied because we fear retaliation if we voice our concerns and feelings." The officers that emailed Call 6 went on to say, "We as officers feel like the chief and assistant chief have made a mockery of our policies and procedures, and if they can't follow them, how and why should we?" The email goes on to say, "We would like to show a vote of no confidence in the chief and assistant chief for the way this situation was handled and condoned by them." The town of Plainfield responding tonight, telling Call 6 the commissioners acted within their purview by disciplining Major Weber for these violations. Now, we also asked the town of Plainfield if the assistant chief received preferential treatment. They told us they have no comment. Erica? It's all because of this, a derail device, and it stops the Indiana Transportation Museum from running on the track, and that includes the fair train. Right now, the Indiana Transportation Museum is quiet. There's no familiar clickety-clack of train sounds through downtown Noblesville on the weekend. It's because the trains literally can't leave the museum's property. That blue thing on the tracks, think of it as a boot for your car. But because they can't put a boot on a train, they put it on the track. And driving over it would cause the train to fall right off the track. So why is it there? There are many reasons, but it all started after 7 longtime volunteers at the museum blew the whistle on the museum's board of directors.
Every one of us misses being part of the organization.
Tom Nichols spent countless hours over 16 years volunteering at the museum. He's also the former head of the operations board. That was before he was fired from his volunteer position along with the other whistleblowers. He was reluctant to talk to us at first, saying he doesn't want to bring a bad light to the museum, but he agreed to share his story of volunteering at ITM.
One of the things that we all shared was the generosity of our time, and we all gave countless hours. Some of us gave our own personal money without asking to be reimbursed.
Nichols says he started seeing issues when money wasn't seeming to match up. And then he says he saw restricted funds being used to pay off debts. Those restricted funds, he says, were supposed to go to operations and repairs.
The real red flag was the consistency of financial reports not always agreeing with what the dispatcher's reports were showing in terms of the ridership, and just kind of the secrecy surrounding everything.
The letter alleges wrongdoings by the museum's board of directors, including questionable financial practices, failure to maintain timely and complete records, and an inability to properly manage the museum. But even though the museum has a whistleblower protection in their general volunteer manual, the group of 7 were still fired. The letter was also sent to the Attorney General and the railroad's owner, the Hoosier Heritage Port Authority, or better known as the HHPA. It's a conglomerate of Fishers, Noblesville, and Hamilton County, and they have an agreement to allow the museum on the line. But the HHPA has the final say. It was after that letter that the HHPA decided to call in the Federal Railroad Administration to review the museum's operations, specifically because of one point on the letter. The HHPA says because of allegations of failing to maintain records on train operations forced them to suspend ITM from using the tracks and add that derail device. At the same time, the Attorney General started investigating the museum, and Call 6 has learned there are 4 ongoing independent investigations into the museum's board of directors. During our Call 6 investigation, a source provided recordings of the most recent Board of Directors meeting for the museum.
All right, let's call the meeting to order.
The Board of Directors are heard bashing the whistleblowers, the HHPA, and the director of the HHPA specifically.
And then Rondrick shows up wanting to know why we're running trains out on the main. Well, you've done who put the derails out there.
At one point, some members on the board start talking about the possibility of suing the whistleblowers, but then direct the secretary to strike it from the record.
One action might be is to have our lawyer write to those people and say, show us why we shouldn't sue you for libel.
We'd have to ask him about that. I don't even want to put that in the minutes.
Okay.
We tried to get a response from the museum for weeks, even heading to the president's home. But it wasn't until late Monday night where we actually got a response. The letter says the allegations made by the whistleblowers are completely untrue and referred to their dismissal as a house cleaning. Even though the whistleblowers have heard the recordings and seen the responses, they say they're still hoping to be back working on the trains at ITM one day soon.
We don't want to see ITM as an organization slandered. We're trying to save the place. We're trying to help improve it.
So when will it be back in service? The HHPA says they'll gladly reopen the line as soon as the museum cooperates with investigators. In Noblesville, I'm Call 6 Investigates, Paris Lewbel. Good morning. As you're walking your dog along the Monon this morning, could you get a hold of 911 if you had an emergency? Most people have never used them, but they're a nice safety net if you needed help. But when seconds count, what if they didn't work? After Call 6 Investigates received a tip about a broken call box, we went to work, asking if those boxes would really work if you needed help. We asked the city for records of where the boxes were and how many emergency calls were made each year. The Monon Trail only has 6 emergency boxes, and they're spread out over the south side of the trail between 13th Street and 34th Street. All 6 boxes had emergency calls over the past year. But still, do the boxes always work? We hit the Monon with IMPD and the park rangers to put them to the test. We started at the first box near the 1300 block of the Monon. The blue light started flashing on top and the call was connected, but there were problems after a dispatcher picked up.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
1200 North Monon Trail.
Hello, this is 911. Do you have an emergency?
It's not an emergency. This is a test. Ranger 125.
Hello, this is 911. Do you have an emergency?
The dispatcher couldn't hear us at all, but they followed protocol and quickly sent officers to the box on the Monon.
Street coming in as a open line of busy on callback. It's showing Indianapolis Departments of Park and Recreation, 1300 North, 1100 East.
Dispatch car 45, you can disregard that was a test.
Well, she couldn't hear me, and I don't know why. I will notify them that they couldn't even hear me on the test.
1 box down, 5 to go. The second? We're on the 1800 block of the Monon. We're with IMPD doing a test.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you guys received it.
Yep.
And the third.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Hello, we are with IMPD. This is just a test.
And the fourth.
What's the location of your emergency?
Hey, it's car 45 with IMPD. We're just testing the boxes.
Okay.
So boxes 2, 3, and 4 checked out fine. Dispatchers could hear us, and we could hear them. But then on the 5th box, issues again.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
This is a test from Monon Trail. We're testing the boxes with IMPD.
Hello, 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hello, can you hear me?
Barely.
Dispatchers could barely hear us at all. The 5th box now also on that repair list. Then on to the final box. Out of order, but it was labeled that way. The final tally, 3 are working and 3 need some repairs. Indy Park's promising those 3 boxes will be repaired soon. Now, as you're walking your dog this morning, these boxes aren't everywhere, so police suggest carrying your cell phone just in case there's an emergency. But there's an important part. You need to make sure you're paying attention to things like those mileposts down the road or what streets you're crossing. That's in case you do have an emergency. You can tell dispatchers exactly where you are. Reporting for Good Morning Indiana, I'm Call 6 Investigates, Paris Lewbel.
Police department, if you're inside.
While officers were kicking in doors and making arrests citywide, our team wasn't. They were fighting crime in a different way.
Honestly, I thought they was coming to tell me I couldn't do this.
We found Raymond Greggs on an expressway entrance ramp.
He was almost killed in a car accident last year. He was walking to get his kids dinner, he said, and was crossing the street. One hit him doing an 80 mile an hour in a car, and he still doesn't have any kind of disability.
People drive by here every day. They laugh at me, they look at me, they cuss me out, they tell me get a job, and it hurts my feelings.
Raymond didn't know he could get help from the city, but that changed today.
People still care.
It's all part of IMPD's new behavioral health unit, a way for police to tackle the growing issue of mental health and crime. Time after time, we stopped to talk to at-risk people who needed help but never knew they could get it.
When they first pulled up, it scared me. I thought I was in trouble, but after talking to them, that they care, there's people out here that really care.
It's a change for IMPD. With the leadership of Sergeant Catherine Cummings, the unit is showing officers that arrests don't always lead to stopping crime.
We have to have a greater understanding and a willingness to reduce the stigma and understand that people are not their diagnosis. And we're out here on the front lines to help people connect with the service providers in our local areas who want to help them.
She says it's all about targeting the root cause and getting people the help they need before it's too late.
Crime comes from issues that are greater than just crime itself. It's the social ills. And so we need to heal our community as a whole and find a better source of wellness and happiness for everybody. And that will help reduce crime, ultimately.
The chief says one of his main goals is to deal with the mental health issue here in Indianapolis, and he's doing that with the behavioral health unit. They hope to grow that unit over the next couple of years and the resources available to the people here in Indianapolis. Erica?